So are all of these tanks are basically yours?
They're mine to take care of. They're basically not mine. That means I have a hobby where I do what I want to do, and I have a job where I do what Tropica wants me to do, basically. But there is a difference, honestly. It's a little dangerous to make your hobby your business.
I know.
Exactly. Because
for that,
as a hobbyist, you decide what you want to work with.
Right.
As an employee, somebody else decides for you what you want to work with. So here is what Tropica wants me to work with. That is what the tanks are. But yes, they're mine to take care of. They're mine to work with.
So you already told me that you're in charge of developing new products. So products are can be anything really, or?
Basically, yeah. The Tropica idea is to keep it simple. That means we are not going into lights, we are not going into tanks and stuff like that. We will provide the basics to have a planted tanks. Usually when I'm asked about which aquarium do you like, which light do you like, I usually say my plant doesn't really care what name is on your light equipment or in your tank equipment. They don't care. The plants react to the actual situation. So that means if the tank works, the plant will grow in it. If the light works for plants, they'll grow in it. It doesn't matter which brand it is. That said, there are brands that are better than others. But that's basically not my job to promote brands. So it could basically be anything. But as I also told you, the Tropica idea is to basically serve the masses and give advice to the not so experienced aquarists, because they're the one that really needs the advice. The more experienced, they know where to find advice, they know where to go for information. So what I have to do is to find new products or new way of using products that are relatively easy to handle, that are relatively easy to have success. That's why our logo says success with your aquarium.
Were you involved in the developing of the 90 Days app?
Yeah.
because that's something that I more or less found by chance. I didn't know that you had it, and then I chose to try it out for myself. I got a new tank. Maybe you heard about like Anne.
I saw you on it. I am on the internet too sometimes. Trust me.
And I was really impressed about the decisiveness of the individual days, what you actually have to do, because it sounds very narrow, very detailed. And then you think, well, why should my aquarium act like this? It's not the same as everyone else's aquarium, whatever, but it actually works. It worked for me, and I think it would work for most everyone else.
And that's the problem. If you want to hit all perfect, then you have to go into too many details and people will give up. You have to make it average. And what is in the 90 Days app is an average. I think it even says you should now look for. Maybe it doesn't happen, but this would probably be the time where something could happen. If that is so, do this, do that. And that is because, like you said, every tank is different. There are not two tanks that are alike. So you need to make an average, and you can make an average. If the conditions, if the light is approximately the same, the water quality is approximately the same things will happen. We have a saying in Danish: if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Not always, there are exceptions, but I can live with that. Then people have to say, okay, this was an exception. It can go wrong, even with the app. Of course it can. So you're right, that it should fit reasonably well to most tanks. It is designed for relatively lowish energy tank. When you go higher energy tank, it might be a little more steep curve. The problem with the tank startup is you go from very little happening to more and more happening, and it goes in a steep curve. Yeah, exactly. It's all about biomass. And that is why we strongly advise, do put some helping plants in your tank from the start. Like I told you before we went on here, the plants actually change the chemistry of the water, which is what happens in the tank. You have to mature. It sounds stupid, but the tank has to mature. In a mature tank is very good at getting itself back on right track. An unmature tank is pretty good at going out of balance. I had tanks at home that were 15 years old, and there were never problems. I could actually put sick fish in that and they'll get healthy on that. So that's the point. You need to get over those 90 days, and 90 days is just approximately.
Yeah,
but that's about the time it takes for a tank to mature.
Yeah.
After that, you're kind of home free.
Yeah. And I think the most impressive part for me with the 90 days app was that it's actually very high on cleaning.
Of course.
You have to have a clean tank, you have to get out everything that's rotting, that's not should be there.
Yes.
And I think that's one of those maintenance steps that most people are new to the hobby, new to aquascaping, are not willing to do on that kind of scale. And I think that's often a problem for a tank, especially
it is the problem, to be honest.
Okay,
it's the basic problem. If you ever worked in a shop, you would know that people come in and say, I want this tank on the nice picture, but I don't want the work. Okay, go buy a screensaver because, or a poster, because that's what you want. If you want to work with an aquarium, you have to accept this is a living thing.
Yes.
Every living things make pollution. They pollute their own environments. So I'm often told, yeah, but in nature nobody changes water. Yeah, they change water all the time. They change a lot of water.
The river is basically water changing.
Basically what happens is if you take the job of God, you take the whole job of God. You can't just take the pleasures, you also have to take the work.
It's a nice picture, yeah.
Basically that's what happens. So that means why not have an easy tank? If you don't want a lot of work, fair enough. I can make you a low energy tank, and I'd say low energy. I don't talk low tech and high tech because it's, in my opinion, not appropriate to the tank. It's about energy. Low energy and high energy. Energy is what drives the tank. That is the light. The light is the energy. And then the fertilization is actually the fuel for the tank. So if you have high energy tank, a lot of light, of course you need a lot of fuel. There's no difference from your car. If you step on the speed on your car, you drive faster, but you need more fuel.
Nice picture too.
That's a good way of it. I mean, I have no idea of cars. It brings me from A to B.
Me neither. So.
I don't care. But I realize that a lot of guys know a lot of cars. So that's why I use this picture. I know about my tanks. I mean, if my car breaks down, I call my mechanic and say, do something about it. I have no idea.
And what was interesting to me is that you already said you said plants change water chemistry.
They do.
And you also said throughout this interview that the fish also
they will feel better in the water that is changed. That is because fish skin is actually not that. They benefit from the chemistry in the water. The plants actually take away a lot of the poison stuff in the water and change it into their cells. That's what they do. That's where they live from. You cannot have, I mean, it's an illusion to believe that you can have a bio-op. You need a much bigger place to make a bio-op. It has been tried so many times in so many ways, it never worked. I mean, even on planet Earth, it's a balance, right? And if we push it too much, it will go off balance. So it's an illusion. Don't think you can make a bio-op where it all evens out and eats itself. That's not going to happen. You need to do your water change. So we are back at the cleaning part. It is so important, especially in the upstart of an aquarium. When an aquarium is going up, and you start it up, it's not in balance. That means you need to take away the pollution that will make on the waste of the tank. Later on, well, it's not a problem to go on holiday for 3 weeks with a mature tank. It shouldn't be a problem. Don't do that with a new started tank. I never start anything up here up to my holidays. It's not going to happen because it's doomed. It will go wrong. Even here, it will go wrong. Mother Nature does not have special rules for me. Exactly the same rules apply to me.
And you said that you would suggest a planter tank, maybe a heavily planted tank for fish keeping in general, right?
Basically, yes. Because what happens is that the plants will make the water more pleasant for the fish. I realize that's not possible for all fish. I mean, some fish will just plunder the plants. Some big cichlids will just move them around. But as far as possible, it's the good way to do it. And I know a lot of cichlid people will hit me in the face and say, that's not possible. Probably not, but you can do as far as you can. There are, of course, things that doesn't work. And again, if you want to buy a Tropica aquariums, yes, I realize that Malaviciclis doesn't have a lot of plants in their natural biotop. That is your choice. You choose if you want to do it strictly by the book, or you want to do it somehow strictly by the book. If you say Africa tanks, people always put anubias in it. Well, there are not anubias in all of Africa. Basically not. So even here, when you do those kind of tanks, you move the borders a little.
So would you generalize in saying the more plants, the better?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Basically, yes. I would say what you need is balance. What is bad for a tank is when things go high and low and high and low in a constant change. That's not good. Nobody likes that. So that also explains why an establishing tank doesn't really work very well, because it's on an upgoing slope. Sooner or later it'll find its point where it should sit. And that's why you shouldn't do big trimmings. You should do small trimmings constantly to keep the balance. Balance is the word here. You need balance. Basically, I'm not a big fan of big water changes unless they are necessary. That means it's actually better to do your 25%, 30% water changes once a week, every second week, whatever fits your tank. Instead of saying, well, I don't do the water change so often, so when I do it, I do a big one. No, that's not good for the tank, actually.
Okay.
Average things out. The more average you can make it, the better.
So would you also suggest then fertilizing? It's better when you do it daily than weekly pushes?
As a rule, yes,
Yes.
it would be better. And let me be honest, I don't have the time to do it on a daily basis here. So I fertilize once a week. It's not impossible, and it's not that bad. But yes, it would be better to do it a little every day. You want things to be
constant,
on a line, constant on a line.
Okay.
Actually, instability is just bad.
Yeah.
A lot of more questions. We can have a few more, and then I have to go back to work.
I don't know. It's mostly interesting, like talking to you in this way. We have no special questions in any case anymore. But maybe something. Is there anything you told me about mosses being like a big push for mosses in the last years? That mosses were more.
Well, we noticed in the couple. I of course search the internet and I go to forums and check out what is happening. Try to keep up with things. And there was clearly a rise in the use of mosses. There's a demand for more mosses. So then, of course, my job would be to find more mosses, test more mosses, and then find mosses that have different use. There's no point of having 10 mosses in the stock line that actually does the same. We need 10 mosses that do different things, and then to describe what they do. We saw the same with Bucephalandra. To be honest, in my opinion, there's no point in having 20, 30 different kinds of Bucephalandra. We should have 2 or 3 or 4 that will cover the basic need of the customers. The specialists, yes, they would love 50 Bucephalandras, but
they know where to get them.
They know where to get them, and to be honest, Tropica has an obligation to feed a lot of people, but also the hobby has some obligation to keep exchanging some of the more interesting plants that can't really pay the rent in a nursery. So just pointing the fingers, Tropica say you are obliged to have all the plants. Basically, no. We are business. We are obliged to do the plants that we can make money out of. And the hobby itself is obliged to have all the more interesting plants. Remember, for me, all the plants are interesting. I would love all the plants to go to the stock list. But if they if they are in the nursery and don't pay the rent, they will be out of assortment, of course.
So, is there anything that you feel is declining in the near future? Like I think you said, Ericaulon is a bit special.
I would say that for the Ericaulon is an example of a plant that gets kind of what's the word for that? Fashionable in a way. Yeah, high profile, fashionable. It's a nice plant, it's interesting, it looks different, but the vast majority, well, basically all the Ericaulons are soft water plants, and very few tank keepers have really soft water for their tanks. So there's really no big future for Ericaulon. They will never pay the rent. I was told we want one Ericaulon in the assortment, so I found one that actually tolerates medium hard water. It still prefers the soft water. So that is a fashion plant. Whereas Bucephalandra will stay in business, I'm pretty sure, because it's an easy plant. It's as easy as Anubias. So that will stay in business.
Yeah, I can't go wrong with it.
No, even beginners. I mean, the vast majority of the customers are beginners, are less experienced tank keepers. And we need to find the plants that guarantee that you success.
Where do you find it?
Where do I find the plants? The plants?
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of them are sent to us. We have a lot of people are following Tropica and saying, well, I know about this plant. Are you interested? Yes, of course. Send whatever you can. I will test it. Send it. A few things are found in nature. They can be in a backpack as a rucksack for 3 weeks in a little plastic bag. You can imagine how that one would look when it arrives here. There are so many sources, and we actually also try to visit different forums to ask if anybody has interesting plants or varieties going around. Because remember, plants are not just plants, they are varieties. There's a lot of varieties. And that means you can actually be lucky enough to find a plant of the same name that is easier to grow. Hippoidoides was a good example of that. It looks a lot like the good old stellata, but it's so much easier to grow. The Hydrocotyle, Japan, was another example. We had the Cyptopteroides before, not an easy plant to grow, but the Tripartita, Japan, is so much easier to grow, so we changed those. They basically do the same thing, but why use a plant that is hard to grow when you can have one that's easy to grow? I would far prefer the easier one. The hard to grow plants, they're not for aquarists, they're for collectors. And collectors, really, there are not enough collectors to make money. Basically.
Sure. Okay, well, I think basically that's it. It was great talking to you.
Well,
it'll be fun.
Interesting. That's what I find interesting. I mean, it's part of my job is to give information, right?
And mine basically too.
Yeah,
so it's most interesting when we.
But you put a face on it. I don't.
Yeah.
So that's why I said let's have a talk. I said so. Let's do a talk.